All right, well, here's a few news articles that I thought were interesting. Biden administration is doing what Trump did. Now they want to demand that TikTok be sold. So Biden imitates an awful lot of Trump's policies, and here's another one. We'll see what comes of this. So there was a vulnerability in something called Telerik in U.S. government servers from 2019, and they apparently never patched it at all. So bunches of people have compromised them. They found a lot of people in there, multiple threat actors, including an APT actor. It was a .NET deserialization vulnerability, which we'll talk quite a bit more about tonight later. We'll talk about ASP.NET deserialization, and there was about 5 years ago, there was a ton of these Java deserialization. Deserialization vulnerabilities were huge, where you have a bunch of data that is packaged in a string variable, and you can change it to malicious data. And that tends to happen. So anyway, the government agency that got hacked was Federal Civilian Executive Branch Agency, whatever that is. Anyway. So Epic Games has to pay $200 million for tricking users into making unwanted charges. And in particular, they made it so children can easily make charges that their parents will have to pay. So that sounds like a good thing to fix and give the money back. This is an alternative to Burp, supposedly, an alternative product to replace Burp written in Rust. And it was not clear to me what the point is. But they're going to have a lot of features. They're proud of it. They don't tell you much. Upcoming features on the roadmap. Let's see if there's anything good there. Burp is a very mature product. Sign Windows binaries. Support Unicode, but none of these are available. I guess they've said they're going to do it. Okay. Anyway, change default automated concurrency. Anyway, I'm not sure why they bother with this when Burp is out there, but anyway, they are making an alternative product for what it's worth. Binance, the cryptocurrency exchange, the main one, the biggest one in the world, has not supported U.S. customers for a long time, although they have a U.S. subsidiary called Binance US to try to meet U.S. laws, and now they're in a lot of trouble, claiming that the two are not really separate like they should be, and now they're blocking UK deposits and withdrawals as more large nations are more and more hostile towards cryptocurrency, and in particular, hostile to Binance. Now, I was listening to the Economist podcast earlier today, and they said, which probably shouldn't surprise anybody, that the reason Silicon Valley Bank died is because the people that ran it didn't understand banking or the damn. I mean, their fundamental flaw was an elementary flaw to continue to hold long-term bonds at a low interest rate when the Fed jacked up the interest rate over 6 months. They should have known that those bonds were going down in value, and they should have sold them, or at least compensated in some way for the risk that the value of what they were holding was going to go down. But they didn't do that because they just don't seem to have people on staff that actually have proper MBAs or something, standard finance information, which is what you expect in Silicon Valley. Everybody's all into disrupting and doing the new thing, and not into doing old-fashioned business things like that. But anyway.
Banks are supposed to hold government bond as a safe investment.
Yes, well, banks are supposed to make safe enough investments. Government bonds are not safe. The thing about here's the point. Government bonds, if you buy a $100 government bond that matures in 10 years, you will get $100 in 10 years. But, so that is the sense in which it's safe. It will not fall to zero. But if you buy it, what happens is they will sell you a $100 bond maturing in 10 years for a price like $50 or $80, because all that time your money is tied up and you could have invested it in something else. So the actual price of it fluctuates. And when the interest rate is very low, they sell near their face value because the alternatives you can do with your money are not any different. But when the interest rate goes up, the bonds suddenly become much less valuable. And that's what happened to them. And when they had to sell them in a hurry, they could only get a small fraction of the value, which is why they couldn't raise cash in a hurry. Their cash was tied up in things which they could only sell at a loss. And they should have known that. They just don't seem to understand the value of bonds and how to calculate it, which is an elementary mathematical exercise that they would have learned if they'd taken an accounting course.
Banks all hold government bonds, but then some of the ones that they also buy option to guard against.
Banks,
labor laws.
banks hold a diversified portfolio, and some of their money is in bonds. But they have to understand how bonds work and balance it with other kinds of investments, and they have to do financial projections and say, if especially since everyone knows the interest rate is going up over the last year, they should have projected what that would do to their investments and plan not to run out of money. And they didn't. And it's not complicated.
They also complained a couple of months ago, starting a couple of months ago, that they also complained, the staff that have money in the bank started to withdraw, in a quick pace.
Yes.
So they couldn't get them deposit to match. So
Yes.
That was the problem.
That's right. That was another aspect of it, is that since almost all their money was loaned to Silicon Valley startups and similar companies, and they're all on Twitter, they all immediately panicked and withdrew their money all at once. There wasn't any friction to slow down the panic and withdrawal.
Another problem with them is other banks, they only have hold the government bonds like 40%. This particular
Right.
bank was holding like 60%.
Right, right.
That was like they got a big investment in.
Yeah, they were
bonds.
they were too exposed in bonds, and their customer base was all in one sector, and all highly connected. So when that sector panicked, that really hurt the bank a lot. If they had diversified in their customer base more, they would have been okay. Another thing I've heard is
And
yeah.
JP Morgan Chase
Yeah.
was doing the same thing, but then they like a couple of months ago, they started holding cash.
Right.
Not to invest in bonds, and then the investor complaining that why did they invest the money? And
Right.
They say, well, it's safer to do it that way, so they got rid of that, but then Silicon Valley didn't do the same thing. They
Yes.
didn't have cash.
Well, there's two reasons for that. I mean, Chase took a more conservative path and made less money.
Yeah.
And that is partly because they're smarter, and it's partly because they're required to. The regulations were relaxed on banking, the regulations that were put in, but at above a certain size, they stayed the same. So the big four banks, including Morgan Chase and Bank of America, are required to be very conservative. The smaller banks are allowed to take bigger risks. And anyway, now that has all changed.
They just got caught with the deposit and then the withdrawal, they couldn't get in the match. That's why I got
Yeah.
in trouble.
And so for decades, we've had the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation that only insures up to $250,000. But now, in the last couple of days, we've made that unlimited. Now they're insuring all the deposits up to whatever they were. And the other thing is, Bank of America, the number of deposits they have that go above that limit and are not insured is twice as much as they have in the insured deposit. But at Silicon Valley Bank, it was 22 times as much. Almost everybody was putting in money above that limit. So the risk was much larger to the customers. And now that risk has been mitigated by the government. So anyway, and now another bank has already gone down, so that didn't stop the contagion. We'll see how bad it gets. More and more banks could be falling.
They were saying, Bank of America is the one that hold a lot of paper loss.
Yes, Bank of America is one of the top four, and they are very conservative. That's why what people are doing.
They are the one that holding the biggest loss on government bonds right now.
Okay, but anyway, what a lot of people are doing is fleeing the small banks and going to the big banks because they're considered too big to fail. Anyway, as people say, as Thiel did start it. Thiel made the first call, warning all these investors to get out of Silicon Valley Bank. So some people blame him for the run. And the Dodd-Frank Act was there for a purpose exactly, but SVB, among others, lobbied to remove the protections. Yes, they buried their own company, absolutely, but that's the whole Silicon Valley way. The whole Silicon Valley way is to move fast and break things. That's Facebook's motto. Take big risks, that's how you get rich. They're not into boring things like accounting and banking. They say, oh, that's the old-fashioned way. We can ignore all that, like cryptocurrency and such. Yeah. Anyway, first, yeah, I see very other people have good facts. Anyway, it's a very exciting time in the world of finance and cryptocurrency, too, of course. Cryptocurrency is way down. And one of the cryptocurrency launderers was just stopped in the European. We stopped another one a couple weeks ago. Tornado Cash was blocked by the U.S. government, and now this one, Chip Mixer, was taken down. And both of these were mixers where you would put crypto in and buy their token, and then you could take that token out at the other end, and it was not a connection between the two. So you could launder stolen money, is the point of it.
I thought Tornado was still around because they were trying to blacklist that the illegal wallet that in the U.S. blacklist, they're gonna block those wallets.
And
I
I,
thought they tried to get it.
I'm not sure. I thought Tornado was down, but it might be. I saw news about it. I thought it was taken down by the U.S. feds.
No, they were trying to get it one step ahead, so the U.S. government tried to block the whatever illegal wallet there were. So
Oh,
they
okay.
tried to block those, try to get the U.S. government to leave them alone. So
Yeah. All right. Anyway, so your BMWs are going to have a heads-up display where instead of having you look down at the dashboard, it's going to reflect all your displays and everything up on the screen. So you'll just see it overlaid over the road, like virtual reality, augmented reality. So we'll see how well people love that. Anyway, let me stop this recording.